because they date a lot of stuff based on the site that they found it. So if there's organic material at the site that they found it, and I've found it's a kind of like a smoking gun piece in all of this, is all the vases. So are you familiar with the incredible stone vases that they make in Egypt?
Please talk about them.
Yeah, so there is a collection of these things. They're made from igneous stone. And Jamie, I've got a few pictures of the vases in that vase directory, and they date back. It's what's interesting to me about these is that they're some of the earliest types of artifacts that we find. They stretch back far into what we'd call pre-dynastic time, basically Mesolithic times, right back to even 15,000 years ago. There was a site called Toshka that was dug up. It's underwater now, but and it was a primitive burial. There was a guy that was curled up in this burial site on the side.
Go back to that, Jamie, the thin card one.
Yeah,
what's going on there?
So this is an example, and these vases display just astonishing aspects of precision and engineering. So this is an example of just how thin this material is. So it's igneous stone. This might be porphyry or something like this. A very, very hard stone, very hard to work, but also brittle when it becomes thin. You can see the giant crystal occlusions, the white marks in it. This stuff becomes brittle, yet it's been worked down to this thinness because this one's been damaged, and you can see how thin that interior wall is. Flinders Petrie is the great Egyptologist, the first guy to really start applying engineering principles from the industrial age to this stuff. He found one, he talks about one in his work that was 1/40th of an inch thick.
Wow.
1/40th of an inch thick. And the interesting thing about these vases, there's 50,000 plus of them were discovered beneath the step pyramid of Djoser. He collected them all up, and even in the museum that's at Saqqara, they talk about, this is so. I've been down underneath the step pyramid. This is a fragment of one of these vases that I found you can handle down there. And even in the museum there, they talk about, he didn't have them made. These were inherited objects from earlier times. Like they get the concept right. And so these things stretch back way back into time. There's pre-dynastic artifacts from pre-dynastic burials. But there's always these sort of arguments, can you do this by hand? Can you not? And so recently there's been some work done. I've been working with a couple of guys, the son of Christopher Dunn, who wrote some real seminal textbooks on ancient Egyptian technology, his son Alex, and Nick Sierra. They're qualified professional metrologists. They work for Rolls-Royce in Indianapolis. They make aerospace parts, turbine blades, things like that. They've got their hands on a pre-dynastic Egyptian vase. And for the first time, they've actually been able to scan this thing using a structured light scanner and define the specific elements of precision on it. And it's just astounding. Like this puts the whole concept of can these even remotely been made by hand to bed. Like these things had to have been made on a machine and made with extreme precision, because this vase that is pre-dynastic, this is a picture of the vase here that they found in a private collection. Because I should say, generally archaeologists, Egyptologists, they're not engineers. They're not particularly interested in sort of how things were manufactured. So what they've done is they've taken this and put this in a machine, and it's a structured light scanner. So it creates like a point cloud of different lights, and then you match a geometric shape to it, be that like a flat plane, a cylinder, a sphere, a cone, and then you can perform sort of geometric calculations on it and define things like precision. So if you go back to that, the surface A, the vase lip, right? So this is, you can see down on the bottom, they've created a point cloud of the top of this lip, so the flatness, and they've called this surface A. It's comprised of 3,813 points, and it's within 3,000ths of an inch of being basically perfectly flat.
Wow.
But that's
3,000ths of an inch.
3,000ths of an inch.
And this is over who knows how many thousands of years of erosion and sand and dust and wind.
Exactly. It's at least 5,000 years old. I suspect this could be far older than that. Now, what's interesting, once you start doing this, and if you go to the next one, Jamie, now we're looking at the lip. So you take a cylinder and you basically take 10,000 points plus, and you match the inside, the mouth of the vase to a cylinder. And what you can now measure that against the other surface. So if you think of like the top of it as being like the x-axis, this is now your y-axis. So that first symbol here, the perpendicular symbol, what it's showing is that how perpendicular is this cylinder on its axis relative to the top of the vase, the surface A that's on the top, within 1,000th of an inch.
1,000.
So it's perfectly perpendicular to within 1,000th of an inch of the top of the vase. And then the second reading here shows you how perfectly, what's the circular error, like what's the circularity of it. It's within 13,000ths of an inch of being perfectly circular.
How are you going to do that by hand?
Well, you can't. This is the thing. And if you
You literally can't?
no one's ever been at you. It gets if you rub two surfaces together, you can make them flat. But when you start looking at the real teller in precision and in these discussions about ancient engineering, it's an easy thing to understand when we talk about 90-degree turns and flat surfaces. But what gets really interesting is when you start talking about one surface in relation to another. And remember, these objects, like the big boxes in the Serapeum that weigh like 70 tons, you've got surfaces, 11 feet apart. It's the relativity of one surface to another. So how flat, how straight is this in relationship to this surface?
Right.
And with this vase, the incredible thing about it is that it's, as you go down it, there's another slide if you can look at
And you should mention how much this equipment cost real quick.
Well, yeah, so these structured light scanners are like $250,000. They're professional. Yeah, this is absolutely a tool that gets used in aerospace quite a bit. So no one's ever really done this type of work. So there's nothing like this approaching. You can't do this with handwork, this type of thing. But if you skip to the next one, so now this is a great example. So what you're doing here is measuring the circularity. Go to the next one because the lug handles are kind of the really important part of this. It's an interesting thing. So for one thing, it's showing you that, okay, they solved the problem of carving granite. It's made from granite. It's actually made from the same rose granite that the box in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid is.
Yeah, not pottery, just in case someone doesn't understand what this is.
Right.
This isn't pottery. People often call it pottery.
Real quick?
Yeah.
When you talk about these measurements, what kind of measurements can be achieved through ceramic pottery?
Well, ceramic pottery, if you're spinning on a wheel, I'm not even sure. You might be able to get down to tenths of an inch or half, like fractions.
But you would never get to thousandths.
Not to a thousandth, no. And this is carved. So this is carved out of stone.
Right.
Hard
but I'm
stone.
just saying, like, if you think about a pottery wheel spinning, and you think about the precision involved in that, and you look at it, it's beautiful, it seems symmetrical, it seems but nothing compared to this kind of symmetry.
So to give you an example, so a thousandth of an inch, if you take a sheet of printer paper like this, that's about 7.5 thousandths thick.
Holy shit.
A human hair, 2 to 3 thousandths of an inch.
So it's half the size of a human hair.
Of being perfect.
Perfect.
Yes. So
holy shit.
That's how precisely aligned the mouth of the vase is. Now, so again, we've carved this out of stone, and remember, even the Egyptologists don't say that they're not spun, they're not cast and created. They say that the Egyptians, used very primitive tools to make these: pounding stones, chisels, flint chisels.
What did they say in the face of this?
They don't. So they don't address
data?
it. Generally, they don't address the evidence for precision.